Good evening. Whoa, hang on. Good evening. Sorry about the whacked out audio. I still haven't figured that out yet. I'm still showing I'm a little bit high. Let me on my voice as well. So let me back that down just a little more. I have no idea. Um, I have no idea. I was playing with settings earlier, but not those settings, and that's what has me confused because I was only playing with the Oculus headset, the microphone on that, nothing else, absolutely nothing else. So, however, let me get some light on in here. However, for some odd reason, it decided to get all whack on me, and I have no idea. But my line in to the rear panel, which is okay, I know this is going to sound incredibly stupid, but I have got a line out, the speaker out comes out and into the mixing board, and then the microphone, of course, connects to the mixing board, and then the line out of the mixing board goes back into the computer, into the line in. And even as I speak right now, that line in at the rear panel is just jacked. I mean, it is cranked. And so that's what the issue was. I'm pulling it back down just a little bit more because I see that I'm peeking out and I have no idea. No, I didn't have a microphone on. So my microphone is completely, well, this one, and none of the others. I mean, the webcam behind me, I'm seeing it go up and down, but it's not active, so it's not picking up anything from that. And the only input going into the computer comes out of the mixer. So why that is peaking out like that, I don't know, because it's not peaking on the mixer. That's the thing that's got me. It's not peaking on the mixer. So, but somehow it's peaking going in. And it had to have been something I did earlier. I had quit using the voice meter banana that I was using. The only reason I was using that was for VR. And I'm still going to do VR from time to time, but I got to work everything out. The issue with using voice meter banana isn't anything to do with the show or anything like that. That works sweet. However, I can't get the stupid microphone to work right in my Quest 2 headset if I have voice meter banana running. And I used to be able to, so I don't even know what happened to that. But that quit working properly. So I didn't uninstall it. I just stopped it from starting with Windows and disabled all the inputs, outputs for voice meter banana. And I had everything straightened out until just tonight. So the only other thing I did tonight was I enabled, what do they call it, Windows voice recognition or speech recognition or whatever it's called. If I click my little thingy down here to tell me Windows speech recognition, I turned it on tonight. Well, it's not always on. It's only on when I tell it to turn on. But because the game that I play, that VTOL VR, I can actually speak to the game to make it do things. And so it makes life a lot easier to do that. So that's why I enabled that. But like I say, it's only enabled when I physically turn it on. So anyway, let me get rid of this pullover. I knew this was going to happen, by the way. I knew that I was going to get the show started and I was going to start burning alive. Because that's the way it works. Okay. Now, do I got a reverse mohawk going on? That's how you know I've had the headset on. I get a reverse mohawk because of the strap that goes down the middle. Anywho, let me have a drink of tea and we'll get started on the discussion for the evening. I got an interesting one tonight. because I think it's something that a lot of people kind of overlook. And I need to start this out by prefacing it with the fact that God doesn't care about what we put on to other people, what we show to other people. God doesn't care about that. He doesn't even look at that. Why? Because it's, in many cases, inaccurate. You've probably heard it said before that God only cares about what's in your heart. And that's a fact. And I had mentioned something last night, just I touched on it just a little bit, that when your heart differs from what you say you are or what you try to show you are, He's going to come down on you like a ton of bricks. I know. Oops, I thought I got rid of that. I know, because I've been there. I've done that. I didn't even get a damn t-shirt. So, what I want to talk about tonight is using the Father's name in vain. And I know a lot of people are instantly going to think, well, I don't say GD, I don't say... That's not what it means to use the Father's name in vain. I suppose that could be one way, but that's not the way that the Bible's speaking about. The Bible is speaking about using the Father for personal gain. That's what it means by using the Father's name in vain. So, if you draw your attention by using the Father, whether it be monetary, whether it just be you want attention, or whatever the case may be, that's what it is to use His name in vain. So absolutely, individuals like Joel Osteen, and I mean, you could name a list of them. Those people are using the Father's name in vain. That's the actual true biblical definition of what that means. It means when you use the Father, and like I said, the best way to word it is for personal gain, any kind of personal gain, when you're not actively living it. And I think that that's very important to understand to be able to move forward in tonight's discussion. Try to not to make this show about the Bible. I try to not to make it church. But sometimes we got to have these discussions. And sometimes they directly relate to what it is that we do. One of the reasons why I don't spend a whole lot of time talking about the Father is because I don't want to be using His name in vain. I don't even want to accidentally do it. So that's why, one of the reasons, there's several reasons. Another, probably one of the largest reasons, is the fact that my views are quite different than what a lot of folks' views are on the Father. And I won't back off of my views for a reason. And, well, let's just say, in many cases, more often than not, my viewpoints and my explanation of viewpoints and my steadfast ways don't work out too well, because I'm here, and it reminds me of the movie, and I hate bringing movies into this, you guys should know that by now. I'm not a big movie person, but it does indeed remind me of the movie The Book of Eli, and in which there were terrible, terrible things going on when he was going across the country. And one scene that really sticks out in my mind because it just, gosh, it gets me. But I understand it. And it's something that I think about often when I am trying to correct myself, when I'm trying to make sure that I am going down the right path, because that's what matters. It doesn't matter whether anybody else thinks you are. It doesn't matter whether you make other people think you are. The only thing that matters is what's in your heart, and you can't lie about that to the Father. When you try, He's going to come down on you. Again, I'm speaking from experience, and it's no fun. I kept denying that I could be the cause to my own misery. I kept thinking that I was doing within His will because I was doing some of the stuff that He wanted me to do. And see, that's not enough. That's not going to take care of the dues, so to speak. And it's a vicious circle, because you keep trying to do wrong. It doesn't matter whether you think it's right or not, but you keep trying to pass it off, an unholy existence. You keep trying to pass it off as being anything but. And I will guarantee you that you will continue to circle around that drain, and it's only a matter of time before you get flushed. And that's what I hope to prevent others from doing, is going down that toilet bowl of spirituality. Because the repercussions are no fun. And I can speak firsthand to that. In preparedness, there is this mindset, and I've been talking about it quite a bit lately, about how people more or less are just worried about themselves or their little group or what have you. And when I spoke about this in the past, even the recent past, it's from the mindset of humanity. Not even spirituality, but it's from the mindset of humanity. So tonight, I want to take a moment and I want to talk about from the mindset of spirituality, because that's even much more important. So I think a lot of us would be in agreement if I was to say things like, the Bible says that you are to love your neighbor. Kind of hard to dispute that. The Bible says that we are to love everyone. That's not optional. It's not optional. We don't have to agree with them. We don't have to support their views. We don't have to have anything to do with them. But we still got to love them. Why? Because it's a son or daughter of the Father. And we are to love all other sons and daughters of the Father, all of our brothers and sisters. There is no ifs, ands, or buts to that. However, there are most certainly cases in which the Father does not expect us to go above and beyond. One good example is, faith without works. Right? If people just want to speak good things but not do good things, that's not going to get anywhere with God. And my discussion tonight is kind of two-sided, if you will, because it's not just about the prepared, but it's also about the unprepared. And we're going to look at it from both sides. So, as far as the prepared is concerned, if it is in the mindset that I'm only going to help those that are in my immediate vicinity, or how it is that you want to word it, my tribe, my what have you, and you're not at all willing to reach out in any way to help anybody else, and like I say, I've covered some of that stuff here as of recent, and I'm not saying, when I say help others, I'm not saying you have to give away your food. I'm not saying you have to give away your supplies. But if you've been into preparedness long enough, then there should be a whole bunch of stuff that you know, that you can educate the unprepared. Now, without getting much further into that, because it's really important that we understand the other side of the fence as well. That's equally as important. It's everybody's job to fulfill God's will. Everybody, both the prepared and the unprepared. But it might not be so fair to accuse, blame, belittle, downplay the unprepared. Because many of those unprepared have been misled. You know it. I know it. Look at how hard the powers that be have put into distracting people, to confusing people, to leading them down the wrong paths. Now, the Father would say that you would be wrong to hold that against them because they were fooled, right? The only time that really you're justified in turning your back on people is when they didn't do their part. That's it. And if they didn't know what that part was, how are you going to hold that against them? However, from that moment forward, there's no excuse. And that's something to remember. Once they know, they know. And that's that. They have to make that decision whether they want to follow his path or their own path or whoever's path. If they choose to follow the Father's path, then it is absolutely on you to help them. And again, I'm not saying by giving your food away. I'm not saying by doing whatever it is that you can do to help them. And I think it's important that we have the honest discussion about that, because it's much the prepper mindset that, oh, well, they didn't do anything to get prepared. Well, maybe they didn't really know. And you can't sit there and go, oh, but you did. You can't. You can't. You can't expect everybody on this planet to be a news junkie. You can't expect everybody on this planet to be interested or thinking about the same things that you do. That's not how it works. And it would suck if it did work that way. Because there's a lot of things out there in life that many of us take enjoyment from, but they come from people that aren't like you and I. Now, I'll point out art when it comes to that. And when I say art, that's a big encompassing thing. That's talking about music. Yes, absolutely talking about film, talking about paintings. That's art. All of that's art. And I guarantee you, if you're much more of a logical thinking person, the whole left brain, right brain thing, I guarantee you that the right brain people don't much understand the left brain people, and the left brain people don't much understand the right brain people. But it's a fact that neither one of them are wrong. The Father put us here with different interests, with different abilities, so that we could fill one another's life. Now, think about what life would have been, because a lot of people that are into prepping, they're going to be the right brain people. They're going to be more logical thinking, and I'm not speaking to every single one, but I'm speaking generally. And so that's why I'm using that angle to give this example. If you are a right brain thinker or logical thinker, think about how miserable your life would have been without any form of art, without any music, without any type of theater, movies, any of that. Now, I'm going to be real honest. Life would suck. Now, I have to be honest in this and fair. I'm not the average animal. Not only am I ambidextrous physically, but I'm ambidextrous mentally. I've got about half and half right brain, left brain. And it makes for an interesting life with yourself, I'll tell you that. You want to talk about arguing with yourself. But I am much more right-brained than left-brained, but it's much more equal than the average person. And yeah, I mean, I there's no other way I could say it. Is that what were you about to say? Is that it would have sucked if life without music. I mean, music used to be my everything when I was younger. Man, I can tell you about how music has, and we'll say, encouraged me to have a good time. I don't necessarily mean that in a good, fulfilling, godly way. And at the same time, oh, right, oh, dude, it's nonstop arguments with myself. I couldn't imagine. Music has saved my life on several occasions. I mean, and I'm not just saying that. I mean, literally saved my life. You'd probably think it was a bit odd, some of the different bands that saved my life. Green Day? I mean, I could say Ozzy, but that's a given. Well, yeah, you guys may not know that. I know that. I was so much into Ozzy Osbourne when I was a teen that literally my license plate said Ozzy. All the other school kids called me Ozzy. And even most of the teachers called me Ozzy. I'm just a little bit into Ozzy. And absolutely, Ozzy has saved my life through his music. But even Green Day has saved my life. I'll never forget. I'm not somebody that has to put on a show for anybody. And I say that because of what I'm about to say. I've had more than one run through a hospital, through the psych ward, in my younger days. More than one, more than two, we'll go for 3. 3 tours of duty in a psych ward in my younger days. I know a little bit about mental struggle. Right on, brother, do you? Ozzy on your knuckles? Right on. And you can barely see it on my arm, but it's still there. When I was in high school, I wanted Ozzy so bad. I wanted a tattoo of Ozzy so bad. Now, mind you, and I gotta say this, I am deathly afraid of needles. I do not do needles. I will frickin' fight a doctor over a needle. Could you imagine when I pierced my ear? Oh yeah, that was fun, because I pierced my own ear. But I was sitting in my bedroom one night when I was in high school, and I wanted an Ozzy tattoo so bad. And so I didn't have tattoo ink, but you don't need that, do you? You don't need tattoo ink. It's ink. It's ink. Hey, I had myself pretty damn convinced. So I got out the ink pen, pulled it apart, got the ink out on a little piece of cardboard. Took a straight pen, from Mom's sewing stuff, along with some thread from Mom's sewing stuff. I wrapped the thread around the needle, I dipped it in the ink, and I sat there and poked the hell out of myself for I don't know how long. Hell, I'll get it after the show. Can't see down there. And I poked the hell out of myself until I could see Ozzy in my arm. And, well, it never looked good. I am not an artist. And, but the thing that really sucked about that is about a month later, it was so damn faded you could barely see it. And it's probably just about as dark now as it was after that month. So, and you can't very well see it. So, probably didn't go deep enough. And, yeah, India ink. That's what you're supposed to use. Yeah, I wasn't that smart, brother. Mine would have been probably like Papermate or Scripto or something like that. Not the right kind of ink. But yeah, that was crazy times. But back to what I was saying. I think right now is critical that we actually listen to the Father and we actually do everything we can to live by His will, not by our own. And I will guarantee you, the more that you live by His will, the less you'll talk about it. Guaranteed. I don't talk about it much. I barely bring it up. Why? Because it's not for show. It's for life. Why would I talk about it? The only time I talk about it is when other people ask about it. That's it. That's it. And occasionally I'll talk about it here on the show. Oh, sweet, cool. Occasionally I'll talk about it here on the show. Ah. Hang on. I gotta find the right buttons. Where the heck is it? Open image in new tab. There we go. Something like that. And then, there. Counterclockwise. Rotate it. Where is it? Rotate it. Man, where's my rotate? Aha. Rotate left. Yay. How long have I been working on computers? There you go. That is awesome. See, I didn't even have anything like that. It's really super tiny. I'll have to take a picture of what I'm talking about and send it back to you. I hear ya. Yeah. I'm going to feel the same way trying to get a picture of that damned Ozzy. Because it's pretty damn small. It is pretty small. I think it's important, though, that we really reach hard as far as to the Father and truly yearn to do His will. No faking, no BS, no just talking about it, but to actually do His will. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that might not think that I necessarily emulate that. And I'd have to beg to differ. I would have to beg to differ. The most you hear me come out against another is when they're claiming to be within the Father's will, and they're not. They're doing it for personal gain. I can't stand it. Not even a little bit. And that's why you see me come out towards some YouTubers quite heavily. Is because that's exactly what they're doing. That is what it means to use the Father's name in vain. It's not about cuss words. It's about going out there and saying you're doing this and you're doing that and you're doing it all for the Father and blah, blah. No, you're not supposed to talk about those things. It plainly states in the Bible, you're not supposed to sit there and go and boast about those things. And in fact, anytime you do boast about the charity that you do, it cancels it out. It's in the book. It's in the book. Which is why you don't hear about a lot of stuff that I do. And it's not necessarily stuff that's related to the Father, but helping people, that's why I help people. But you don't hear me come on here and talk about all the times I help people. I help people each and every day. A lot of times it's computer-related stuff. A lot of times it's, but I do it because, for one, I can be of service. I see a need, I fill the need. That's what we're supposed to do. But day in and day out, I help people with different things. It's just my nature. It's what I do. And if I was to sit there and come and talk about it all the time and use every example of it to lift myself up to you, then it negates what I actually did for the Father. And that's a fact. That is a fact. And so I think that's important for people to remember, because as we continue going into these times, there's going to be a much bigger demand for need for help. And when I say that, I mean for physical, earthly help. And at the same time, there's going to be a much bigger demand for the Father's help. I don't want folks to be swirling around that toilet bowl like I did. And that's why I want to do my part, blow my horn, my trumpet, to the best of my ability. Steve Engel had been writing me back and forth an email, and he had brought up a show. He had wrote an email about a show that I did, and let me word it how he worded it. I don't want to screw it up horribly, and Lord knows I will. I don't care about... I get these emails nonstop from LinkedIn. You have 3 messages. I have no care. I don't do LinkedIn. I filled some crap out one time a while back, and I've not even been back. I get emailed every single day from LinkedIn. I need to click unsubscribe. I should probably go and get rid of my account and then click unsubscribe, but I really don't care. Don't care. Let's see. Okay, let me see if it's got... Here it is. Yeah. What he had wrote was, it was part of his notes. He said my name and responds Bible quote of Jesus, I come not for peace, but with a sword. And I was trying to remember that, and I didn't. And so that's why I'd asked him, can you give me a little bit of background, like the date, the title, something, so I can go look at it. And he emailed me last night. He emailed me back. I was already in bed, and I tried finding it on my phone to no avail. I hate using a phone for anything like that. And so I just put it in the back of my head that when I got up, I would look on the computer where I knew I could do a much better, more thorough search. And sure enough, I did find it. It's, and I don't know why, but for whatever reason, it's an unlisted show. And I listened to the part that he was talking about. It was a good show. That was a really good show. And it got me thinking about this whole preparedness subject. And it got me asking the question, what would Jesus do? Now, what way would God want us to handle preparedness and handle an after major event situation, if you will? An after SHTF event. And I just want to make it very clear, because I got to blow my trumpet, that if you refuse to help somebody that's trying to help themselves, that's not going to go well with the Father. You can come up with all the excuses, all the reasons, and it doesn't matter. Because the only thing that God cares about is what's in your heart. Not what you can make look good, not what you can fake, but truly what's in your heart. Now, I've got good news. I've got great news. It doesn't matter how far and how many times you have fallen. What matters is whether or not you continue to choose to fall or you want to choose to get up. I have screwed up in my life so many times. I was atheist until my 30s. You think I screwed up a little bit up to that point? I screwed up a whole lot up to that point, and I continued to screw up time and time and time and time again. But when I lost my family, and the only thing that I had was the Word and the Father, I started to right that ship. And I'll be honest, I was worried. I was worried that I done went too far. I really, truly was. You know, when the girls from the Latter-day Saints were here Friday, we got to talking, and they were talking to me about coming and visiting their church. And one thing I am is honest to a fault. And I let them know, if I choose to do that, you need to understand that I'm probably not going to be able to maintain my composure. You know, I can talk to God right here, right now. I can feel God. Every day, I do. But there's something about walking into a church, as long as it's in your heart. It has to be in your heart. There is something about walking into a church where you've got all the people thinking about God, and there's something about going up to that altar. If you truly love God, if you truly want to please God, you're going to have such a rush of emotion that it's, in my case, not containable. And I wanted to let them know, if I choose to do that, I'm going to be a mess. And to be real honest, that's what I need. And I know it. I know it. That's what I need. But I want people to understand there is no faking it for God. And it doesn't matter how long, how much of your life you spent faking it, you can turn around right now. And I promise you, and I don't just make blind promises. No. No, I'm not one to do that. I promise you, if you get on your knees and you ask Him for forgiveness, you ask Him to help you forgive yourself, because believe it or not, that's one of the larger parts of it. I guarantee you, I promise you, He will. But I want to give you a word of caution. If you do this, and you renege on it, God help you. God help you. And I'm speaking from experience. I want my kids and my life more than you could ever imagine. And I'm going on 10 years and counting. And all I can do is try. And then accept the fate for what it is. During that show that I did that Steve was talking about, I talked about how sometimes it doesn't matter how hard you try. Sometimes it doesn't matter what you do. Sometimes the answer is no. And you have to accept that. You have to live with it. And that's how I look at it with my kids. Until God says yes, it's not going to happen. Now, I could get pissed off and I could get angry at God but that's not going to do anybody any good. Anybody. And so I can sit here right now tonight and I can tell you about my experience and hopefully stop somebody from going down the same path. That's what I want. Now, do I expect something from God out of that? Nope. What I expect is God's will, whatever that may be. That could be my kid showing up on my doorstep tomorrow. Likewise, it could be me taking my last breath tomorrow and never had seen them again. And I will take God's will. Hey, I'm not innocent. I brought a lot of that on myself. I am far from innocent. I'm not the only one. I'm not pointing fingers back. I'm just saying I'm not the only one. However, my choice to do wrong was my choice, not hers. And I could have stopped at any time. And I did. But it was far too late. Far, far too late. And it is what it is. All I do is pray that it's God's will and accept His answer, whatever and whenever that is. It's all any of us can do. But I guarantee you that the sooner that you start working for the Father, things will get better. But if you're out there, you're busy trying to do things just for yourself, or if you're out there trying to be an obstacle in somebody's path, or if you're out there trying to spite people. Now, God hates spite. I can tell you that right now. Well, I can't say hate. God really, really dislikes spite. That rubs Him the wrong way like you wouldn't believe. And He will make your life miserable. Absolutely. my advice to people, if you feel miserable, you need to take a good look back at yourself and ask how much of it you're responsible for and how much you try to make other people miserable. And if there is indeed instances of that, well, then you probably deserve to be miserable. But, as I said, you can make that choice at any time. At any time. And you can save your own life. That's what I did. That doesn't mean that I'm going to be blessed with my children. That doesn't mean I'm going to be blessed in finances. And I'll tell you right now, typically it's not the Father's will if you're blessed with finances. That's not how He thanks us. Regardless of what a bunch of YouTube evangelists or televangelists think. That's right. Vengeance is the Lord's. Absolutely. Amen, Kevin. Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why you don't hear me constantly talking about my ex-wife, and why you don't hear me constantly, because that's his job. And the better I am at following God's word and doing God's will, the more likely He's going to see that vengeance. Now, I want to make it clear that you can't, that can't be a deal between you and Him. That, okay, if I do this right and this right and this right, then you're going to kick their ass for me. That's not how that works. Remember, it's always God's will. And sometimes the answer is just no. And you have to accept that. Then move on. But I've learned from my own experience that by trying, honestly, earnestly trying to do His will and continuing to do so regardless of what other people do to you, puts you on a hell of a lot better path than not doing so. Because I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't have made it this far. I wouldn't have made it near this far. And I've said it several times, and I mean it 110%. I gave God the wheel because I'm tired of putting the car into a ditch. I'm real good at putting the car into a ditch. That's why I gave Him the wheel. And yeah, there are times that I'll say I get spooked and I grab that wheel and I try to make a course correction, and guess what happens? I make mistakes. I screw up. Which is why I try harder and harder and harder to keep my hands off that steering wheel. Because I will screw it up. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Right on, Kevin. Right on. It's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing. But the most important is that you live for Him. Not for yourself. Not doing so in vain. Not about what you say. Not about what you can make appear. It's about your heart. And God knows that heart. No matter all the bullshit you say, He knows the heart. And the more you fake it, the more miserable He'll make you. I know. I'm speaking from experience. I am speaking absolutely from experience. Hopefully, I can help some folks from going off a cliff. I know I wished I would have had somebody to have explained it in some kind of a way to where I would have understood it. Probably a baseball bat would have been about the only way. But nonetheless, I wish that I would have had somebody that used that baseball bat to explain it to me, so that I wouldn't have wound up in the mess that I got myself in. So all I can do is tell other people, because there are a lot of people that are about to go off a cliff. A lot of times, the answer is just stop. Plain and simple. Just stop. It's our decision. And only ours. I talked about the 7 deadly sins a little bit last night. Mine was lust. Lust. And I can tell you that it was born and bred out of insecurity, lack of self-confidence, lack of trust, lack of true, honest love for the Father. And a whole bunch of selfishness. What's faster than the speed of light? Mercy? Prayer. Okay. I was trying to think of what a good answer for that would have been. Absolutely. Prayer. No doubt. And on that note, I will ask for a little bit of prayer. Not for me. You'll figure it out. I have to be like literally hanging by that last thread before I ask for prayer for myself, because I just don't feel right doing it. But I always need prayer. So, but I'm not asking for me. I have a friend. I've known her since I was a teenager, and she's been having some furnace issues, and she's not by any means a financially secure person or anything of the sort. And I think she's got folks that are going to help her with the financial part of fixing that furnace. But then we have a whole nother part of fixing that furnace that is even harder. It can be harder than the financial part. And that is the parts. Getting the parts. So I don't believe in unsaid prayers. So I will say that her name is Vi. And I'll leave it. Her name is Vi. I don't believe in unsaid prayers. If you will, please pray that the technicians can find her furnace parts, because I don't know what she is going to do if they can't find the parts, because I already know she can't get help replacing the furnace, and I don't know really of what other options there would be available for her. So if you will, please pray for Vi that the HVAC company doesn't have an issue getting a hold of the parts, because right now that's a hard thing to do. So anyway, now that it's 9 o'clock, we've already been here for an hour. How about we do some news? I thought you said this wasn't church, Watchman. Yeah, well. Alright, so probably going to be obvious that I'm going to run through this stuff. After a bit. Yikes, I got like blasted by my own e-cig. And after this shindig, I got to take myself out. I mean the trash. I keep getting that confused. I got to take the trash out after the show. Not take myself out like Epstein didn't do, but you know. You know, much like taking myself out like the Clintons didn't do. It's about all the same. I mean, probably literally the same. Huh. Alright. Wall Street Journal it says Shell suspends all Red Sea crossings indefinitely. The price of oil will soar. So just a heads up on that. I know I saw this headline earlier and I went to go check diesel prices because we love our heater. And they're even cheaper than when we last got diesel fuel. So, but I have a feeling it's coming. So, just keep that in mind. Like I said, I'm going to run through these. Iran's massive ballistic missile attack in Syria and Iraq. Mossad headquarters destroyed. U.S. and Israeli targets hit. Right on, brother. I hear you there. I hear you there. Oh. When he put himself in my life, the only thing that I can say, the biggest, most profound thing that I can say about it, is that he works in mysterious ways. And he has a hell of a sense of humor. And that's a fact. To play a practical joke back on myself, well, it wasn't so much yeah, in a sense it was a practical joke. But to play it back on me and make it bite me, that was pure genius right there. Pure genius. Definitely works in mysterious ways. Now, I've got another article here, and I believe it's a different attack, but don't, quote me on that, because I've got this article here, and then this article here that says Iran struck Pakistan for the first time with ballistic missiles and drones, and, Iran within 48 targets in 3 countries, Syria, Iraq, and Pakistan, so that was a different attack. And so I would really kind of be paying attention to what's going on there. The United States obviously is hitting back the Houthis and anyone and everyone else. There's been a new airstrike on Houthi missile facilities in Yemen. And believe me, this stuff is not going to go unanswered. It's not. We are, at this point, we're not even walking into World War III. We got our eyes open, we're wide awake, we're walking into it. Red Sea tensions may become impossible to contain, says United Nations. And I would say that they pretty much already reached that point. I think it's a matter from here of things just playing out. And that's not a good thing. Israel needs years to break up Gaza tunnels, says New York Times. And I think this just goes in support of what I've been saying. That Israel doesn't intend on Palestinians ever occupying that land again. And I think that this will be used as one of the excuses to keep them out. Now, how's that going to shake out? I don't think so well. They're always going to have some support from some nations, but I think at the same token, there are other nations that aren't going to be good with it no matter what. And personally, I'm not. I'm not good with it no matter what. I think what's going on is a bunch of BS. And I'm not, again, I'm not taking a side. I'm not saying Hamas was in the right for what they did on October 7th. Absolutely not. Thou shalt not kill. Well, let me clarify that. Thou shalt not murder. Okay? If somebody's trying to harm you or an innocent around you, and you take their life to prevent them from doing that, that's not breaking the 10 Commandments. But I will say this, signing that dotted line and going into the military and taking another person's life, I hate to say it, but that does violate that. It absolutely does. The only way that we are justified in taking another's life is when it's in defense of ourselves or innocence. Innocence. I have to word it that way. Ukraine's leaders only have only themselves to blame, says Putin. Right on, Peter. Put away your sword. Right on. You know, yeah, in the end, I mean, for the most part anyway, Ukraine's leadership makes their own decisions in the end. And I have watched this play out so many times to where you can tell Zelensky's worn down. Zelensky just wants to walk away. And then all of a sudden, this, whatever you want to call him, diplomat or whatever, will show up. And that diplomat will show up. And they all keep pep talking him and saying, we'll give you this, we'll give you this. And you're talking about a frickin', what do you even call that dude? I mean, he was like on TV shows and stuff, dancing. I mean, that's the kind of leader you're looking at with Zelensky. I don't know. In the end, just as I was saying earlier, with us trespassing on the Father's word, in the end, he's got to take accountability for it. They could have stopped a long time ago. I don't think that Putin's plan in any way, shape, or form was to take all of Ukraine. I honestly don't think that that was his intent. I think he wanted the areas in which the people that wanted to be a part of Russia. And that's it. Because they wanted to be a part of Russia. And this is something that should have been taken care of a long time ago, but wasn't, because of all the nation-building countries, the U.S. being a big one of those, encouraging them not to sit down at the negotiation table. And they still continue. It's crazy. Yikes. U.S. Aviation Agency hiring people with severe intellectual disabilities. You've probably heard this from a half a dozen people or more by now. So, no need me beating that horse. And lastly, and this is, I'm like, the F. I don't want to cuss. I tried to put the show in the Father's direction tonight, and I don't want to do it. But why in the heck is the German MEP asking these questions and not the U.S.? That's the first question I have to ask. This is sad. This is sickening. And it's inexcusable. Inexcusable. I haven't really dug into what had happened, but I have seen a video in which the guy was saying, I mean, he came right out and said that if you don't hear from me again, I mean, it was chilling to watch that video. It was truly chilling. And for the most part, the United States is mum. And I'm at a loss. Alright, let me, run through these. UK. Oh, I guess I better bring this up, or else I'm probably gonna get like. I'm already disowned by humanity. But I'm sure y'all are well aware now that Trump won by a large margin last night in the Iowa caucuses. And while that's, of course, the big news for most people, the big news and disappointing news at that for me is that Vivek, however you pronounce his name, dropped out. And that was a bummer for me. Because if there was somebody for me to put my card behind, it would have been Vivek. No doubt. No doubt. No doubt. And I was actually shocked that he had done so poorly. I was shocked. I would have thought that he would at least got in front of Nikki Haley. But apparently he didn't. And I was shocked. Yep, I agree with you. Not only that, Kevin, that about history repeating and it, us never learning. It reminds me of a quote, and I can't remember it verbatim, but I absolutely love this moment in a movie, and I'm not big into movies, but the day the earth stood still. I don't know if it's in the original, but I do know that it's in the remake. There was a conversation. I believe it was between the one girl's father and the alien dude. Yeah, I'm telling you, I'm not that much into movies. But they were having a conversation. And the chick's father had told him, I think, or it may have been the alien. It was somebody. It could have been narration or something. Was talking about how mankind will always bring humanity to the brink of destruction before they ever figure it out, or something to that effect. And it is absolutely 100% true. Yeah, I'd have to watch it again. In fact, I'm going to have to watch that again. I saw it the other day. I think it's on one of the streaming services right now. If not, I'll be able to watch it one way or another. I think it's on one of the streaming services. I can't remember if it's Prime or if it's Netflix, but I thought I saw it on one of them. I'm going to have to watch that again because I love that. In fact, I'm going to have to get that quote out of there. Just like I did the Happy Gilmore stuff earlier today. I couldn't resist that. Out of comedies, Happy Gilmore is one of my favorites. Absolutely one of my favorites. I don't know if any comedy will ever be able to outdo Airplane the movie, in my mind, but Happy Gilmore was a good one. Let's see. German economy stalls, says data. Didn't you just say that like the other day when you said that it looked like Germany was in a recession, even though we've known that for like years now? Let's see. Russian car production surged in 2023, says data. I talked to you about Trump. And I talked to you about Vivek dropping out. Let's see. Washington decries reckless missile strikes on Iraq. Russian MP. Pardon me. Don't know where the frog came from. A Russian MP proposes male sterilization ban. Ooh, that's going to piss off the feminists. Russia to deport Syrian migrants. U.S. scrambling to check China's charm offensive in Davos, says Politico. $1 million stay. How Davos locals gouge the global elite. Yeah, apparently the food, a hot dog. I forget what it said the hot dog cost. I was like, what? And just remember, one way or another, we're paying for it. What is that? I mean, I think it's a vehicle, but I'm checking the old. I don't know if I think I said something about having those aircraft flying over the other day. I think I did. No, we don't have, well, I'll say there's nothing on radar box. It doesn't mean that we don't have anything flying over. It just means nothing on radar box. Yeah, that's definitely a vehicle. Huh. We live in our home is like really quiet. Well, I mean it's concrete block, and so we don't hear a whole lot inside, which is a good thing. Same as they can't hear a lot outside. So like when I jam that song at the beginning of the show, nobody else can hear it, and it's, believe me, in here it's jamming. Let's see. EU searching out Ukraine aid slackers, says Financial Times. Skulls booed at handball match. I'll let you use your own imagination on that. Chinese banks tightening restrictions on Russians, says Bloomberg. Video watching the aftermath of the Iranian strikes near the U.S. consulate. Globalists lack supporters, but they have nukes, Alex Jones says to RT. He's right, you know. U.S. policy on North Korea destabilizing region, says Lavrov. Latvia seeks to deport visually impaired elderly Russian woman, says embassy. Let's see. Hero comment 222, however that's pronounced. Commander received MIM-104 Patriot anti-air missile and managed to land it. It's crazy. Ex-UK PM lobbied for expedited defense exports to China, says Politico. I'm telling you, by the time it's bedtime now, without having that last round of coffee, I am like wore out, which is a good thing. NATO has at least 3 years to prepare for war with Russia, says member. Plane crashes on highway in Chile. AI to increase global inequality, says The Economist. And I would agree. I said the same thing about robotics like long ago. I was warning people about robotics in the 90s. That's no joke, because I've seen it. It was happening then. You know, one of the big things was the automakers putting in the robot welders. That was one of the early on big things. Those folks, those welders, they made a fortune. I did some welding, production welding, not for a car maker, but kind of related. The company that I worked for, they built racks that held the car parts that the semis transported them on. So we built the racks that went on the semi-trailers that the car parts went onto to be hauled across the country. Big 3 Precision Products in Womack, Illinois. And while I was working there, and I've told this story before, but while I was working there, a tornado hit like a block away. A couple of people lost their lives. And I'll never forget this. And in fact, I told the girls that when they were here Friday, the girls from Latter-day Saints, I told them that story about how I was welding at that place, and the tornado sirens went off. They told everybody to get into the break room. There really was no good place to go in that building. Even the break room wasn't a good place. but probably the best place to go in that building. And I'm like, it's too cool. There is no way, meaning the temperature, it's too cool. There's no way. Because, man, I've been storm chasing since I was a teenager. And I really did honestly think it was too cool. And I was eating my sandwich. I didn't go into the break room. I stayed right by my machine with my lunchbox there. I ate my sandwich, ate my chips. I'm sitting there. I drank my soda. I'm smoking a cigarette. And I ran out of soda, so I was walking to the break room to get another soda. And there was a door on my side of the building, and then way on the other side of the building there was a door. And when I say a door, I'm talking about big enough that a semi could drive through. And I heard a bunch of racket at the far door down there, and I turned my head and I looked just as the door got sucked off of the building. And needless to say, I picked up my pace into that break room. And sure enough, the tornado actually hit a mobile home park that was just like a block away. And a couple people lost their lives. And I am very, very hesitant of saying that it's too cool. In fact, we were talking about storms, and I brought that up. I'm like, because it was honestly too cool for a tornado. Because they'd asked me, they're not from here, so they don't know how the storms are here. And so they asked me if there was any possibility for that. And I'm like, I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it. But it was certainly too cool, so. Let's see. Nuclear-capable Russian bombers fly over Sea of Japan. I'll have to check that out, Kevin. Yeah, Manchurian Candidate. I've kind of halfway seen it. I wasn't paying real close to attention to it, so I'd probably need to watch it again to even. I don't really remember what it was. I'll have to put that on a list. I'll have to put the Joe Rogan and Manchurian Candidate both on a list. Biden accepts that he will likely face Trump. Kremlin reacts to claims about Chinese banks. Now, I'm telling you, by the way, backing up a little bit, if it becomes Trump and Biden wins again, I think you know. Because believe me, anybody, if it's between Biden and Trump, anybody with an inkling for Trump will come out to vote, because they're going to make damn sure that the same thing don't happen again. So, if it's between them two and Biden wins, you know. And I'm pretty sure we know anyway, but I can't say it. The powers that be get a little pissy when we talk about the truth. Let's see. Kremlin reacts to claims about Chinese banks. Ukrainian statehood could soon suffer serious blow, says Putin. That's one of the attacks from Iran. Telling you, I'm beat. Sorry. Oh, you did? I didn't even know you did, so you didn't cause me to yawn. Ukrainian men in EU are cowards, says Estonian MEP. Oh, yeah, and I'm very familiar with MK Ultra and stuff. Absolutely. I'll have to check that out. Now, I obviously know what Operation Paperclip is, but I'll have to see what they were talking about on Joe Rogan's show. But yeah, I'm very familiar with MK Ultra and all of the experimentation with that. The dude that jumped out of the frickin' hotel building or whatever. His family, it took his family years to get anywhere as to finding out what actually happened to the man, and it's sad. And then they found out the truth of the matter was that he he fell from, well, I think they may have known that he fell from a building, but nothing ever made sense. And I don't think it was, yeah, it was LSD. I don't think it was that long ago that they found out that he was part of those experiments. Let's see. Russia's top you just chill. She's all up in arms because she's wanting to go do trash. And why is my, oh, it's changing color. My CPU light. It's supposed to change. It was like it was froze on a color. That wasn't right. Anyway. Russia's top MP supports renationalizing heating infrastructure. EU state might ban Russian real estate ownership. U.S. elections falsified, says Putin. U.S. Aviation Safety Agency hiring people with severe intellectual... Oh, I covered that. Kind of covered it. I read the headline twice now. Slavs may unite to raise Western Europe, says EU lawmaker. Zelensky threatens Putin's grandchildren. Americans will lose. That's what Yemenis think about the war with the U.S. Top U.S. diplomat pledges to sustain support for Kiev. French birth rate lowest since World War II. Israel needs years to break up Gaza. Oh, I covered that. Kinda. Ukraine conflict began in 2008, says Putin. U.S. defense chief ordered a shuttle ambulance, says media. In other words, when they came to pick him up when he was having issues, apparently the Secret Service told them, do so without lights and sirens and don't bring any attention to it. So the plot's thickening on that one. Russians' Lancet 3 kamikaze drone destroys Ukrainian Toma Bradley. Ukrainians shoot it out of cities to avoid conscription and digging underground shelters in forests. They're doing everything they can to avoid being drafted because they know. They're just cannon fodder. It's sad. Spoke about that, the U.S. airstrike on the Houthi missile facilities. This is an article about those Navy SEALs that were lost at sea. Germany, the government sends 10,000 tank ammunition to Israel. Houthis claimed responsibility for the attack on the Greek-owned ship, the Zagrafia, and I'm probably saying it wrong. Shocking battle in Donetsk, Russian army east clashed with Ukrainian 72nd Brigade. Iran struck Pakistan. Pakistan, not Pakistan. I'm trying to... the Mandela effect, man. It's the Mandela effect. Let's see. Pakistan threatens Iran with serious consequences. Massacre on the Dnieper. 200 Ukrainian soldiers lost in battles on the frozen river of death. Oh, wow, really? Well, happy birthday to them. Absolutely. Wait. So that means you were born before 1962? Let's see. German MEP demands answers over... Oh, I've talked about that. Putin meets North Korean foreign minister. EU state expelling elderly... Oh, wow, 59, really? Wow, I didn't realize you were that old, Kevin. I'm not saying you're old, by the way. But you're not as old as Steve. See my way out? I've got a way out. You're not as old as Steve. Howdy, Steve. How you doing, brother? Let's see. Steve knows where I live, though, so he's probably going to send a nuke. Let's see. EU state expelling elderly Russians is a security threat, says Putin. Trump renews vow to quickly end Ukraine crisis. NATO issues downbeat update on Ukraine, and I do have a number 1 up there, so let me... What city? Oh, yeah, I heard about that briefly. Chicago. Let me get this out, and I'll pop it up in there. I did hear about this. Tesla charging system collapses in major U.S. city. So yeah, Chicago. Bunch of vehicles that are stranded, and it's kind of hard, really hard to charge those batteries up when it's that cold anyway. Now they've got heaters, but once your battery's so far low, guess what doesn't work any longer? The heaters. So it's kind of like a self-defeating thing. Right on, man. I had to poke at you guys. Oh, man. I tell ya. Fun times. Kind of, maybe, sort of. I really miss my evening coffee, but I think I'm better off without it. Even though I've been tired as all get out when I get up, I think that's because my body's trying to adjust. So, and I'm actually dreaming. I'm not remembering the dream so much, but I am absolutely dreaming. I actually had an odd dream that in the dream I was running and my COPD wasn't kicking my butt. So I thought that was interesting. Let's see. Alright, I think that pretty much covers it. I am gonna boogie out of here and get some trash taken out so I don't get disowned by the dog. And I mean that. Right before we went live, and I mean just like moments before we went live, the subject of trash was brought up. And just casually between Jen and I, it was a, sea conversation for Blue. She could see her butt out of it, but she didn't. Boy, that head picked up, and she's looking at me like, we going now? Trash day, you wouldn't believe it, but it's like the homecoming around here. I mean, it's mind-blowing, because she's so excited about taking the trash out with me, and then tomorrow she'll be so excited about going and getting the cans. It's awesome. I love that dog. Anyway, absolutely, Steve, and thank you all for coming and putting up with me. And God willing, I'll be back tomorrow and we'll do this again. So, and if I'm not, blame Hillary. I mean, it works for me. Anyway, I hope you all have a good night. God willing, I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for coming. And as always, God bless you. We love you. Be one with your spirit. And shalom.